Hello and welcome to The Print. I am Debdutta and we are here in Kathmandu. We are here in conversation with one of the most important people in this election, and that is Gopal Sivakoti, who is the chairperson of National Election Observation Committee based in New York. He was here during the elections and we speak to him more on how the elections were conducted, what were the kind of trends or shifts he saw, what went right, what went wrong, and what lies ahead. Welcome to The Print, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on our show.
For starters, I would like to understand from you that you have until now seen a lot of elections or observed a lot of elections in Nepal. What would you say was different this time from the previous elections?
Yes, so in terms of election management and in terms of campaigning and in terms of attaining the internationally recognized benchmarks, this election has met all the criteria in that sense. So, with some exceptions of scuffle and some degree of irregularities and management problem, the election by and large has been very successful, and it has met all the standards that an election of any democratic elections of with the international benchmark should attend. So we are happy that we ended up with a very credible election this time around. We're speculating some complexities because of the uniqueness of this election, because it's not a periodic election. This election is a change moment triggered early or even kind of a midterm polls. We're always talking about mission 27, but now it happened 1.5 year early. So but there are some differences also if you compare it with the previous elections on this particular election, that the campaign process has been a bit different. We could not see much violence and non-compliance on physical side, but more on like a tsunami way on the social side. The degree of and the magnitude of the misinformation and disinformation and ill information that has been flooded in the social media seems to have been curated, machine curated, and the whole echo chamber has been created, and the what you call it astroturfing has been used, so that a sovereign voter could not even utilize or optimize his or her like freedom of conscience, because it takes away your conscience, because it's like a wave, and then so you can't run or move against the race or against the wave.
Right.
So that is something very troubling this time. And also on a physical side, particularly during the campaign, we saw some of the candidates using high intensity languages, which we call in our electoral dictionary, it's called hate speech, revengeful expressions, like to finish up somebody or send somebody in exile, or if we were going to win, then we're going to send somebody throw inside the prison. These are all high intensity revengeful expression that we witnessed this time. These are not the cases in the early election, right? And in terms of voters turnout, this is one of the lowest in the last 25 years.
Right.
Yeah, we used to have around like 65, 68%, or at least 60 to 63%.
And
even
what would you
sometimes,
attribute this low voter turnout to? Is it because it's a midterm, like you said, it's like a snap poll?
yeah, there are certain factors that may have contributed for the low turnout. First of all, people may have certain degree of fear about violence because it was once again a Gen Z triggered election, and what we saw during the Gen Z movement, all kind of destruction, killings, so that may have a certain degree of impact on the voters turnout. And the other important issue is that because we don't have out of country voting, and a large section of young population is out of the country, particularly in overseas as overseas contractual laborers.
Right.
So that could be because of the absentee voters. And
What
also,
percentage would that be?
in terms of percentage, I don't have the exact percentage-wise, but around 6 million out of the country. And then also we have out of constituency voters as well. So people are still within the nation state's border, but because of the floating population, particularly who reside in the urban center, they can register there, but in terms of voting, they have to be physically present in the polling center in the respective constituency, which is very costly, particularly in the high mountains, in the far-flung and remote areas. So just to cast and tender one vote, you have to spend a lot of money and resources and time as well. So that could be another reason. And other factors maybe voter fatigue or election fatigue, because people thought that many people have some kind of impression that the upcoming composition of the parliament is going to be a hung parliament again. So it's going to be the same kind of a tendency that might repeat again. But now the results sort of a bit different now. But the general perception was that no political party will have a majority command. So it was the same problem even in the previous election and the composition of the parliament. So
But the trends seem very different now. I mean, it's
yeah.
clearly not going towards a hung parliament at all.
Yeah, I don't think there will be a hung parliament now. The way that we have seen the election results graph, one particular party is going to a kind of a clean sweep advancement. But general people have that impression always, that because it's been like a similar practice for the last many years here. So that could be one of the reasons. So. Voter turnout, but 60% is not bad either. If you compare with a number of other democratic countries or highly democratic countries, it's okay. That it's a reasonable one. But this time we are because this time we are, because of the wave, because of what we witness, on the road show and the social media's tsunami of information, that we were thinking that it will go above 70% or something.
Right.
But anyway, that could be one. That could be some of the reasons that there is a lower voter turnout in terms of previous elections. But we are contained. We are well contended with the show in terms of percentage. Yeah.
And would you say that, unlike last times or previous years, this election was an election where almost all the key contenders and the one that seems likely to be winning right now played more on the digital landscape than on the physical landscape? Like you were saying, that the social media campaigns, there were pros and cons to it. There was hate speech, there was, I have spoken to other analysts as well, and they tell me that most of the political or election based sentiment seemed to be playing out on social media, and
True.
the algorithm seemed to be amplifying it. And of course that has an impact when most of your audience is someone who consumes digital media platforms. So would you say that was one of the key aspects of this election, and that also translated into the kind of vote shares or results that we are seeing right now?
Yeah, I agree with your question, because this time the political parties or the candidates did not come out with their election manifesto during the early hour of the campaign.
Right.
There was road show, there was big rallies, and there was door-to-door campaign, but without agenda. So this time the election has been agendaless. And so they published their manifesto at the last hour, and most probably, most of the people didn't even have time and even interest to read and comprehend the election manifesto. But we saw loads of information, basically the fake information, artificially generated or machine generated kind of public perception, etc. on social side. I give you an example. TikTok, for example, in 2025, between April to June, just for 3 months during the very regular time, complained that there were 2.8 million fake video content, were uploaded by Nepalese only on their platform. 2.8 million, 28 lakhs. So that shows that how actively we are generating misinformation, and now this is election time, so you can imagine it has not only double, means triple, maybe 5 times or even 10 times more. So and it's been very difficult also for the TikTok platform, as well as for the Election Commission and Cyber Bureau of Nepal Police and other agencies involved. Even the fact checkers didn't have a time because there was a tsunami of information. So this is something very troubling for us and for everyone, because we are talking about sovereign voters, informed citizenry. We are always talking about expression of free will, without any interference by anybody, right? That is the what you call is 7-second sovereignty. That's the only sovereignty that you have, because you migrate your sovereignty to your representative, right? But if you cannot make your mind, with your full conscience, then this will be a kind of disaster in terms of whom you are going to, elect, and who is going to represent you, in the government. So this is a troubling factor for us. This time has been a very, very high voltage and high intensity kind of, and very, very complex situation that we have witnessed. On physical side, we didn't see much kind of, non-compliance with the code of conduct, except the political parties and candidates always break the ceiling of the fixed kind of, amount that they can spend. So we have starting from 25 lakhs Nepalese rupees to 33 lakhs, depending on the geography, demography, and the market price in the different constituencies. But very, very, very few, hardly anybody honors that ceiling, the cap amount.
Did any of these parties do it this time?
Yeah, many did that, but because it's very difficult to document everything. But when we see the tendency, when we see the pattern, that in the constituencies and during the vote process, vote buying also is a bit common here. And there are some incidences of vote buying also observed by our observers this time as well. Some is not in a widespread scale on the election day, but that basically takes place in advance, and particularly during what you call is 48 hours cooling hour. Yeah, there should be a cooling hour. So in Nepali it's called is Maun Avadi. Maun is should keep quiet, but there is an ironically or satirically we also call this Mani Avadi. So that means a lot of kind of vote buying activities take place during that time. So it's very difficult for the Election Commission to monitor all these kind of activities, because it's so widespread. And in terms of rally, there is a fixed kind of number, and the presentation style, and the size of the posters or size of other campaign materials or everything. But many candidates who have money, who have a better network, they take command. So in terms of level playing field, we still have to do a lot of struggle, because women and especially marginalized sections of the society do have constant in terms of even meeting those ceiling criteria.
Two questions following up from what you said now. One is, then based on all that you said, would you say that the elections were free, fair, credible? And second, the question of marginalized communities, indigenous communities, women coming out to vote. Did you? I mean, I know it's still too early to be documented, but do you see any kind of a shift, or maybe some kind of a fear among people, like you said, voter fatigue, where they did not want to come out? What about the marginalized communities, and what about elections as a whole? Like I asked, that would you classify it as a free, fair election that took place 6 months after a spontaneous protest kind of shook the previous government, something that was not planned at all?
No, in totality, because whole electoral engineering and electioneering is considered in totality, right? So if you look at on the face value or prima facie, presentation or outlook, the election must be considered as a credible elections. Of course, there were sporadic incidences of some violence and a little bit of vote buying, or even not creating a conducive atmosphere for those people who cannot afford, to contest. So these are some of the issues that have been there, so much ingrained, in our election system all the time. That is there. But when we talk about the technical side of the election. The Election Commission has done a very good job, and the security forces have also, performed kind of, a meticulous security arrangement, and electoral administration, by and large, has been very satisfactory. And people's sense of security among people was not below the standard. So we have done above average and in a very satisfactory level. But again, I have to be very much precisely talking about again the curated information, machine generated information that has a delusion or create illusion and sometimes even hallucination among people. Everyone has got a smartphone now, over 70% of the population, right? And then we have been so much swayed away, and the wave of this kind of information. So even if you don't like to see something, but something pops up, right? And then there is also other issues associated with the change now, because this time the election is basically seen as a confrontation between the old one and the new one, the established one and the new one. New one do not have a specific menu or recipe of their change agenda. We haven't seen anything very concrete kind of thing, but it's still in terms of change, people talk about change because of kind of governance issues with the established parties, because of the corruptions incidences associated with the parties, and also political mass fixing among those parties, to remain in power all the time, and also pre-poll alliance building, which has been it's a very unique and very kind of unacceptable type of pre-poll alliance was built in the early election.
Was
So
any of it seen in this election?
not really. There could be in one or two places, but we don't have any evidence that. And Nepali Congress, for example, said that they are not going to for People Alliance. So was with other parties as well. We didn't see anything. There were a couple of information which came out in the newspapers, etc. But we didn't see that kind of result in those areas. So so this is a unique thing this time if you compare with the previous election. But but people are not happy about this, very artificial alliance building before the poll,
Right.
So there were people do have a lot of frustration and even anger, which are somehow manifested during the Genji movement. But the entire the dream project behind the Genji movement was not to topple down the government or even dissolve the parliament,
Right.
etc. But a lot of other factors. I don't know what actually interplayed, but many other factors also were instrumental and critical, to make a sudden change with regards to redirecting the demands or adding more demands, in the Genji's organic demands, right? But anyway, Nepalese could not opt for other forms of governance in the country. We cannot go for despotic regime or monarchic or military regime or a state of emergency, etc. But we have conserved and preserved the open society, the free society, and human rights friendly society, and competitive electoral democracy for the last many years. So we opt for the election.
Right.
We didn't want the election in the beginning, but there wasn't any other options. So that's why people were happy to go for for voting, because there is no any other options, right?
So parliamentary democracy is for the Nepal.
Yeah, it is for the Nepal, and we want to see its nurture. We can't backslide from what we have attained after decades long struggle, that we have come to this zenith of our open society, right? Nepal is a landlocked and least developed country. Like many people in many rural areas probably go to sleep with empty belly or half-filled belly. but still they love democracy. There is a dedication. There is an affinity, strong affinity towards a freer society and inclusion more than that. So I have a little bit of worry about what is going to happen after this.
Yeah,
Because
that was going to be my next question. That what next from here?
yeah, my little bit of worry and my advocacy, I represent a big network in the country, is going to be that there are certain pillars of a democratic polity that must not be compromised. Whoever goes to power, whoever runs the country, like whatever kind of regime we will have, but there are certain tenets that must not be compromised and negotiated. For example, we cannot bear anymore the violence or the culture of violence. So they have to have a common minimum agenda which negates and denounces the culture of violence. Because what we saw is that violence also could bring some changes. The
Post
fresh
the
ginger movement,
September
for example.
uprising, yeah.
So, but that is not a healthy way of changing the regime, because the vicious cycle may repeat again, at one point of time.
So it
So
becomes a loop.
exactly. So that we are a little bit worried. So nobody should embrace the culture of violence even directly, indirectly, or circuitously. That's what I feel. Number one. Number two is again whatever we have already attained and enshrined in the new constitution, including in the laws and policies, and also express our commitment in the international arena about human rights safeguards. That must not be backslided or compromised. We are a party to majority of the international covenant and conventions and protocol on human rights. It's a big asset for this nation and for people. So, under no circumstances, even with 2/3 or sweeping majority, whatever, we will not allow to happen that they compromise. I'm talking about the compromising whatever we already achieved so far. And the third issue is constitutional supremacy. That is what we have to honor, because we believe in constitutionalism. So we have a very strong and very inclusive constitution which has been produced after a long investment, very tiresome and cumbersome exercise. Okay, so that needs to be preserved. Rather, that needs to be nurtured. Even if you go for some kind of revision, that should be forward-looking, not a regressive one. Okay, and the fourth one is, to me, honoring the supremacy of rule of law, of the judiciary, in fact. So no one should be treated outside the radar of rule of law, because in the course of bulldozing or the law, we have seen that the sometimes the law of force is superseded by force of law, but under any circumstances the supremacy of the judiciary should be honored. The respect must be there. The fifth one or sixth one is about the inclusion.
Absolutely.
This country has attained inclusion after almost 80 years of struggle, which has been manifested in the Constitution. Inclusion not only on representation but also in other spheres of life, in bureaucracy or in military or as scholars and students or in diplomatic world. There are certain quotas and reservations and also affirmative actions which has been guaranteed by the Constitution.
Right.
And Constitution itself is a grand kind of document in terms of honoring rights of the marginalized section of the society, elderly citizens, children rights, etc. And also there are fundamental rights which are very uncommon, like in other countries. For example, right to food, right to education, right to employment, and right to health, right to clean environment. These are some of the rights which were considered as progressive realizations category rights in the past, but now these are fundamental rights. So the minute they are violated, and they are court challengeable, we can go to the court. Right. Like other civil and political rights. So that we have preserved. That must be honored. That must be strengthened. And culture of impunity. We must address. This country has witnessed, very unfortunately, institutionalized culture of impunity for the last many years. Many commissions have been formed. Many reports are there, or some have been, are made public, many are not. There even during the first People's Uprising in 1990, there was a commission formed called Malli Commission. It brought out with 1100 long graphical report, 1100 page long graphical report, and that was not implemented. And so this was the beginning of the institutionalization of the culture of impunity, followed by other major and widespread rights violation that took place in the country, and especially during this 10 years long armed conflict.
Right.
Thousands and thousands of cases have been lodged before the Truth Commission, and I think more than 2,000 cases have also been lodged before the Enforced Disappearance Commission. So the commissions are formed, but because of some certain degree of political interference, or and some kind of again quote unquote mass fixing, those cases which were collected and documented already back in 2015 have not been resolved yet. So there are now the latest two commissions have been formed. So they should be supported and encouraged and motivated, and not encroached by, or not interfered by the by the new government in the days to come, so that they will be able to independently and meticulously accomplish their job. That will create a history in this country in terms of combating the culture of impunity. So that should not be compromised by the new government, by the new regime, and including what happened during the Genji movement.
Right.
The atrocities committed in both the days needs to be transparently and credibly addressed, without any revenge, without any remorse, without any partiality, etc. So that is what we want to see. We'll observe that, we'll monitor that, and we'll be very watchful and vigilant about how the new government will function in this regard. So and then there are other issues also. We live in a global village, right?
Right.
Everything is globalized, and then there are issues of concern that we cannot stay in isolation from what is happening in the global affairs. For example, the issue of the climate action. And we are the victims,
Right.
because of the Hindu Kush Himalayas and then water tower falling down so quickly, and the lower basin, the South Asia particularly, and we're going to be the first victim in Nepal. So, and then the culprits are somewhere else, So how we can explore justice? What are the avenues? What will be our position with regards to fighting and exploring, for the justice avenue? So very few political parties have that kind of strong agenda. They talk about climate change, etc. But what are the specific means and ways of exploring justice in terms of loss and damage, for example, and then also in terms of how to correctly balance our diplomatic position with our neighbors, very strong neighbors on the both sides, and also with the other allies and our partners, and with the global community. We can't go for diplomatic disaster. Even a slight mistake in terms of our expression or action is going to change the entire landscape of our very volatile and very sensitive kind of positioning here.
Right.
So it should have a very clear kind of position, but this should be based on the consensus, not one party or two parties, but a dialogue. Yeah. So these are some of the like including the migration management. It's a
Which
big
is a
thing
big
here,
problem,
big
yeah.
problem here in terms of the outflow of unskilled migrants in the Gulf and other countries. It has been a big problem. We are not party to 1990 Migration Convention, and we are not party to 1951 Refugee Convention as well. We do host refugees from 15 different countries here, right? And we in that sense, as a source country, millions of people end up in some of the destination countries, right? And our position with regards to the labor rights based on the ILO convention, based on the 1990 convention, also depends on cleaning our house first, right? Then only we can go for larger advocacy and dialogue and diplomatic engagement with others. So that whole gamut of issues needs to be kind of discussed and printed, so that in a very transparent way, so that we will be able to demonstrate our position in the global arena. So these are not so much discussed during the election campaign. Many political parties, largely they talk about building roads, irrigation, drinking water, sanitation. Yeah, exactly. Something about a trillion economy and etc. So those are all local issues, and we have local government empowered to do that by the constitution. So let's not hijack their jurisdiction and mandate, right? So we have the lawmakers and policymakers here. This is the election for that. So that if there is not a clear jurisdiction differentiation, then we'll be in trouble. So what I mean to say is that change is required, but change for what needs to be very much transparent.
Or at what institutional cost?
Yeah, exactly. That is also very important. So let's not wait for another change in like 5 years or 10 years, a similar kind of way, and then the parties which going to win will be wiped out and other change will come, And then, okay, another most important issues I almost forgot to tell you is about the enfranchisement. That's the only word that I can never spell out correctly. The ensuring the voting rights of the diaspora community. Yeah. So yes, it's a huge section of the population is out of the country. They're the one who are, like they are the breadwinner for our ailing economy, in terms of remittance generation. And when they are excluded from the democratic process, then it will create another round of frustration, and so kind of alienation from the process going to be a big problem, because these are all brain power and the muscle power, which are so much required, for the prosperity of this country, right? So the Supreme Court of Nepal already kind of gave an order some 8 years ago to ensure their voting rights. But even during this time, even the government announced that it will happen this time, but nobody moved forward with these laws or ordinance or any kind of bill. So we must consider, to guarantee and ensure the rights of those people who live out of the country, as well as a section of the population who is not in their their original constituency, but live within the country, but in a different place. So, and also early voting, postal voting, and then outside the modalities needs to be developed with regards to I-voting, e-voting, internet voting, or physical voting, etc. So there's a lot of work, to make this electoral engineering an inclusive one. That means we are talking about not only election is a tool, but we are talking about a broader kind of consensus building and broader democratic framework that this country is aiming to advance in the days to come.
On that very hopeful note, thank you so much for joining us at the Print.
Yeah,
Sir.
it's my privilege and honor, and thank you for having me.